do this. The podcast by faithful and for faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David. How are you doing tonight?
Great. You got your Oilers orange on there. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, it's actually every child matters orange, but it's orange, so it's a game day shirt.
There you go.
So
There you go.
not very many of the opponents wear orange, just a couple of them. I guess the Islanders and the Ducks, I think, are about the only ones. But
fortunately, we never played the Denver Broncos.
Oh no, that's right.
They still wear orange? I don't even know if they do. I don't watch the NFL
I don't
anymore.
think they do anymore. No, I think it's trim. I think it's blue with orange trim.
The Orange Crush.
Yeah.
70s mandatory 1970s sports reference. Lyle Alzado. All right, Bruce, that was a fantastic win by the Edmonton Oilers tonight. A deserved win by the Oilers, I thought. A lot went right. Some went wrong, and we're going to get into it. This is our two good things, two bad things, and two numbers podcast. So I'll start it off because my good thing is something that I wrote about at the start of my post earlier today, which had the headline of "Pretty please, can the Oilers not give up the first goal of the game tonight?" And they didn't. They scored the first goal of the game. That's the eighth time in the 18 games that they've done. So, Bruce, when the Oilers in 7 of their 8 losses this year, 7 of the they've only lost the 8 games, the opposing team scored the first goal. So if that opposing team's going to score the first goal, the Oilers are most likely going to lose the game, and their losses come invariably when there's that first goal scored against them. Tonight, though, I just thought they played a really strong game right from the top. There was a break-in play, but I think it actually had as much to do with an illegal pick on Jesse Puljujärvi at the center ice area. Still happened, but and it would have countered if there had been a goal against. But I don't even think they got a shot. They didn't get a shot off on net, so they missed the net on the shot. But the Oilers, I thought, were strong early in the game, and voila. At 18:05 of the first period, they made an absolutely fantastic play. I thought Leon Draisaitl came out flying, like skating very, very hard early in the game, and his line was out there for this goal. It was we're going to talk about this. They scored a number of beautiful goals, and this was one of them. Draisaitl and Ryan Murray were moving the puck very nicely back and forth between each other, kind of diagonal passes. And then Murray hit Ryan Nugent-Hopkins in the slot, and Nuge threw it at the net, kind of a shot pass. Fogle got the puck before actually it hit the net. He kind of picked it up right in front of the goalie and slammed it home. It was a beautiful passing play, and it was indicative of a strong start, of the Oilers' strong start. I actually don't think the Oilers' starts, they're not to do with a lack of kind of offensive will or offensive skill. The Oilers have had bad starts this year because they don't usually crank up their defensive play till they get behind in about half their, in too many games. And they've got a lot of bad habits in this regard that they've got to break as a team if they want to be a team that challenges for the Stanley Cup. And it goes up and down the lineup. It's every single player who's making these mistakes early in the game. It's their most prominent players making them more often than anyone else because they're on the ice more than anyone else as much as anything. But they've got to crank it up, and I thought they did. I thought players like McDavid and Draisaitl and Nugent-Hopkins and Hyman and Nurse and Ceci, they all came on and played really hard-nosed, strong defense to start the game, and they just got to do it. They've got to make that their habit. They're, as I said in the post, they've got to make it their religion. I saw that tonight, Bruce, and I was impressed with that. I thought the Oilers, I don't know if this habit will last. I hope it does. But it is a habit that must last for this team if they do hope to challenge for the Stanley Cup. There's no other way they're going to do it. So they might as well get in the habit now of doing it and continue it forward. And that's what I hope to see.
Yeah, fundamental professionalism as far as I'm concerned, to be ready for the start of the game. I mean, the odd time you're going to get blitzed, but it shouldn't be like 2 times a week occurrence that you're trailing by the first TV timeout and you're down 10-1 on the shot clock halfway through the first period. It's happened like 3 or 4 times lately. It's just, hello, wake up.
Yeah. And we're not saying wake up as nicely as that when we're watching it on TV either.
Not always.
And neither are other fans. It's very frustrating.
Oh, no,
Must
it is.
drive the coaches crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a number of coaches. Like this has been a habit. This has been an ongoing issue in the McDavid era. With McDavid, Draisaitl, the two, and Nurse, the 3 players who've been here the whole time, Nugent Hopkins, a few others, and they're part of it, right? They've got to make up their minds as much as anyone else. Honestly, if I'm completely honest, this is what I really think. The star players on this team have got to make up their minds. This is just not happening anymore. It might happen. Even really great players can get beat now and then. But it's not going to happen every second game like it's been happening, where you're getting, stormed out of the gates by the other team, and you're fumbling around with the puck, and your legs aren't moving, and your mind's not moving, and you're letting guys in. These leaders of this team have got to decide, not on our watch. We're going to, our team is going to be defined by strong defensive play right from the top of the game. Bruce, and if they get that right, everything else will fall into this place for this team. It doesn't mean they're going to win the cup, but they will go far in the playoffs. They will do very well, and they just got to get this right.
So, well, job one is making the playoffs, and they've had so far in the second 10-game segment, this was just their 3rd win. They've already lost 5 in regulation. So at best they're treading water, and they're more likely that they're not even doing that at the current time. And so they have to clean up a few things, but being ready for the start of the darn game is pretty high on that list. They were tonight. I thought, skating hard and bringing it physically and having their share of the puck. And and they did get that first goal. Although this game, unlike the previous 6, I think the team that scored first never trailed, whereas tonight the lead actually did change hands. Vegas scored the 2nd and 3rd goals. Then Edmonton got the 4th and 5th, and it kept seesawing back and forth. But Edmonton had, in the end, I guess 3 leads, and Vegas had 1, but it was a bit of a seesaw affair.
That second goal was so critical as well, obviously. Let's get to your good things, Bruce, because you're going to talk about the other 3 goals, which were.
I'm going to talk about all the goals, because I thought the Oilers. If you look at the numbers of this game, the Oilers got outshot. We had them as being outchanced, but on the Oilers' chances, they executed super well on all of their goals, which were all basically beautiful passing plays.
Yeah.
And it was, the first goal that you already described, real good play by Leon along the boards to get it to Murray on the point. And Murray sort of did a shot pass where it looked like he was shooting, but he actually fired a diagonal dart to Nugent Hopkins. And as you mentioned, Nuge shot it. There was a shot, originally I shot with a shot on goal, but when I saw the replay, it went to Fogle, who either intercepted the shot or it was just a hard pass, and he was able to take it on the edge of the crease and tuck it home. Well, the second goal was a nifty 3-way passing play. Again, Nugent Hopkins involved. And this time he got a good pass to Nurse, and Nurse found a seam, fed it again diagonally to Draisaitl with enough time to, rather than blast the one-timer, there was such a scramble in front. Leon actually held it for a second, picked his spot, and wired it home to make it 2-2. And that was a huge stabilizing goal, because not only the Oilers given up 2 goals to fall behind 2-1, but there had been a bit of a defensive problem for the first half of the second period.
Oh, yeah.
And they so they were kind of hanging on there. So to get a goal at that point and stabilize the scoreboard and turn the momentum, that was absolutely huge.
There have been again, five alarm shots in a row for the Vegas team before that goal, right? Five alarm shots.
They were all 5 alarms. Yeah,
well, including the penalty shot goal, right?
Right.
And You know what I loved about that goal, the
Mm-hmm.
Draisaitl goal? I mean, other than Leon's shot,
Mm-hmm.
Darnell Nurse's pass was just
Yeah, it was
brilliant.
great.
What a pass.
Mm-hmm.
And he just ripped that. And what a
Mm-hmm.
thing for Vegas that you're playing this team.
Mm-hmm.
You've had five alarm shots in a row. You do have a goal to show for it,
Right.
which is pretty good. But you're playing this team and they're not getting much. But man, when any little mistake
Mm-hmm.
against these players, and bam, it is
Mm-hmm.
in the net.
Mm-hmm.
That must be so painful for the opposition teams.
Mm-hmm.
Have this, surreal level of skill, which just in the blink of an eye, they execute and destroy your defense. And they're all my image of this game is Vegas players sprawled on the ice after the Oilers have sliced through them for another brilliant goal. They're falling all over the place trying to stop it. They're doing their best, but they can't do it.
Yeah. So then the Oilers opened the third period with a carryover power play, and after two pretty miserable power plays early in the game, and a kind of rough start even to the third period part of this power play, after first of all giving up a great chance late in the second, and then early in the third, Tyson Barrie coughed the puck up, and they had a little bit of a look on it. But the puck went down to the other end, and then all of a sudden there's the skill coming through again. The Oilers had one chance that uh, didn't work, and it looked like the puck was going to go to Vegas and get shot down the ice. And Tyson Barrie came all the way across from the
Yeah.
far point on the right side, anticipated the play, came racing over, and also didn't just. He actually didn't win the race to the puck, but his stick did because he did such a great job of stretching out one hand on the stick and just chipping it back into the corner. And from there, the rest of the team did some of their magic with the puck, with Nugent Hopkins again finding McDavid, and McDavid in great shooting position, uh, instead slipping it over to Zach Hyman, who wired it home, and that put Edmonton up 3-2 early in the third. And then finally, in the overtime period, uh, just the one shift, a minute and 23, no, a minute 17 seconds. Same three players on the ice for the entire time, 40 seconds chasing the puck and then 40 seconds with the puck. And McDavid and Draisaitl had a couple of, sort of dangerous looking possessions. I mean, it always seems dangerous when one of those guys has the puck and the other guy's out there in open ice. But Draisaitl got the puck back to Nurse at the point, and Nurse decided to take it out of the zone and do the reset, which is a very common strategy in 3v3 overtime that you don't much see at 5-on-5. But what it accomplishes in overtime, I mean, it's not hard for two other guys to get back into onside position, but it leaves a lot more space for play. And Nurse, after drifting back, snapped. He waited for McDavid to get back in position and sort of cutting across the ice, and then he snapped a good hard pass up to McDavid, and all of a sudden he's a one-on-one, and he's got 60 feet to work with because he's taking this pass at the blue line as opposed to somewhere in tight to or behind the net. And he left one poor guy in his wake right as soon as he received the pass, and the other guy trying to scramble over. Well, he had no chance, and McDavid did the little inside cut and roof job with a quick two-touch where he just changed the shooting angle and roofed it all in a split second, to bring the night to a happy conclusion for Oil fans. And they were, they earned it based on execution. I mean, I would argue they had probably the four nicest goals in this game. I'm biased, mind you, but I would make that case. I thought the Vegas goals were sort of garden variety. I mean, the penalty shot goal was it was a shot, but it wasn't like a shot after three nice passes like all the Oiler goals seemed to be.
Indeed. Did Nugent have 3 assists tonight?
He sure did. Two at even strength. He's taking some grief for his lack of even strength scoring, and he responded with a couple of apples, and then he got a third one on the power play.
If an assist is an apple, what is a goal?
Well, that's a good question.
I was trying to look it up the other day and I couldn't find it. Do you
Grape?
know that a grape? so Nuge has 20 points,
I was just going to check that. That's what I
which
was
is
remembering.
in 18 games.
Pretty good.
So he's 34th, tied for 34th in the NHL, actually tied for 28th. If he had 3 more points, Bruce, he'd be tied for 10th. It's been a while since the Oilers have had anyone in 3 players in the top 10 in scoring. They've had 2 players in the top 10 for some time. But there is a chance, and I'm going to say it's like, I don't know, 1 in 5, maybe even higher than that, 1 in 3 chance that either Nuge or Hyman will slip into the top 10 this year in NHL scoring. With
Well,
Nuge
Hyman's got to be right there too, right?
Hyman's right there as well, close. I think he's got 19. They're very so if these guys get hot and the power play gets super hot, if Nuge could have, I could see Nuge getting 85, 90 points this year, and that might slip him in, which is fantastic because based on their salaries, that's great value. If you're getting a point or near a point a game out of a player who's earning around, what is it, $5.1 million a year, that's outstanding return on your dollar. Nuge has been getting criticism for his even strength scoring. He's not alone in struggling in that area for Oiler forwards. He does get a lot of really great minutes though with McDavid. I've liked his play with McDavid and Draisaitl this year. I haven't always liked him with McDavid in the past, Bruce, but I think he's getting to be, he's a slightly more effective even strength player at this year than he's been in the last couple of years. I mean, he was great on the, as we called it, the dynamite line with him, Draisaitl, and Yamamoto in 2019-20. That line found some real chemistry for 30 games. That's the last time he's been great. But I've actually liked his play quite a bit at even strength this year. I think he's quite focused and sharp on the attack, especially, and more determined to kind of force his will on the game, like to get involved physically, than he's been in the past. I think he can be a perimeter player, if we're honest in our assessment of Nugent Hopkins, but he's getting more into the middle of things on the attack, and maybe a bit of that Zach Hyman attitude's rubbing off on him because, of course, Hyman's the human pinball out there. He's always in the middle of everything. So, but good for the Nuge. Bruce, let's move on, and we will now talk about our bad things. And my bad thing is going to be some bad luck. And that was on the first Vegas goal that tied the game. I mean, it's a point shot that goes off a guy's head. I think it went off his head, didn't it? It looked like it went off his head or his shoulder, and then bounced higher into the air over Skinner, who's covering off the bottom of the net and right into the net. So the chances of someone getting a shot off their upper, their shoulder or their head like that and it landing in the net, I mean, you don't see a lot of goals like that. It's just a bad luck play against the Oilers. It happens. It's a goal that counts for the other team. It's a goal that Pacific Division teams love to try to score, I think. It's, mastered by the Todd McClellan teams, that point shot where you get traffic in front and you hope it hits someone and goes in. And I've called it the Californian because it's the California teams that get it, but I think I'm going to call it the Burnsy because it's Brent Burns who's the master of that shot, of that, hard shot that finds a piece of somebody else and goes in the net. It could be his teammate or the opposition, but it goes in the net. Burns is the master of this play. We've seen it for years, and they got it there. It's frustrating as hell, but such is life. Such is hockey. That's how hockey
into
works.
Traffic and hope you get the bounce.
Sure.
Not the most exciting, but it can be very ruthlessly efficient.
Yeah. I love it when the Oilers score those goals. I admit it. Like when you get one, it's like, wow, they just
found money.
It is, right? Yeah, it's in the middle of the table. You grab it, and that's why teams try to manufacture those shots. It's not a bad tactic, and the Oilers need to do maybe a little bit better shot of trying to get more of those kind of goals and shots themselves. They're having a hard time getting some of their shots through from the point in recent games, and it would be nice to see them score some of those goals. I don't know how many. I can't recall them scoring more than 1 or 2 all year long, if that. Edmonton hasn't scored that way. So, and you got to score that way now and then. What's your bad thing?
Yeah, well, I was thinking about railing on the terrible call by linesman number 90, leading directly to the tying goal in the third period. Not that it was an important call or anything. When the puck went right by uh, the Vegas defenseman Shea Theodore, who was skating towards it. And all he had to do was take one more stride and stick his stick out, and it wouldn't have got to the hash marks. And he decided to turn and go back to the goal line, and the linesman lets him do that and then calls icing. It was just absurd. And then, of course, they score off the face-off. I was pretty sour after that. But I'm actually going to call out my bad thing as the play leading to the penalty shot, where a big part of the problem was two bad line changes by two Oilers that exposed them in the middle of the ice, with one being Brett Kulak going off, mind you, after a shift of 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Trying to make the long change. The second period is just brutal, especially for the defenseman. That bench is a mile away. You would know this from all the quick shifts you have in your beer league games. That the bench is a lot further in the second period than it is in the first.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I have a little bit of sympathy for him, but he didn't get off in time, and the guy that replaced him, Nurse, really had no chance. He was caught up on ice on the play. But then the second one, Dylan Holloway, like Vegas has got the puck. They have the puck inside their own blue line. Holloway's dead center in the middle of the ice as a high forward, kind of covering the pass at the middle. And for some completely unknown, bizarre reason, he decides to glide off. He doesn't even hustle. He glides off to the bench, leaving the middle of the ice open. Wham! Pass right up the middle. No defenseman there, no forward there. Well, guess what? Breakaway. And Ryan Murray on the other side, I mean, he was somewhat at fault, and he wound up committing the foul on the play that they called for the penalty shot, and I got no real complaint with that call. And it was, but it was just poor game management by to some extent Kulak and to a large extent Holloway. Like I thought that was just a horrendous rookie mistake in a long series that he's made to this point. And for all that I understand, all the hype and excitement about what a good player Dylan Holloway is going to be, the sad fact is that he is not yet that very good player. And to this point in the season, he's, to my eyes, been a liability. And I think it's time that they sort of take stock of that and say, time to get more reps, get more ice time. Because tonight he played, what do we got here? 4 minutes and 40 seconds with a penalty and 0 shot attempts and nothing at all on his event summary other than that penalty and that bad line change that, proved to be pretty costly. And that's a couple of pretty big mistakes to be making in under 5 minutes. Hook a guy along the boards and then abandon your position when the other team's in possession of the puck. And it's just happening too often. And I don't want to sound like I'm sour on Dylan Holloway. I just don't think he's ready yet. And I think it's about time the team maybe recognizes that fact and changes things up for a while.
How about Tyler Benson had a great preseason.
Mm-hmm.
And if he can come back, like he's been off for a while with injury, unfortunately, the story of his life. If he could come back after he's down in Bakersfield, he's playing a bunch of games this week. If he could come back, take Holloway's place, I mean, he might be just the ticket, right? He's more of a veteran player. He's physical now. He's an agitator. He's got a little bit of skill. And it's okay if Tyler Benson at this point plays 7-8 minutes a game.
Yeah.
It's not okay if Dylan Holloway does. So I agree, Bruce. Like that's a rookie mistake.
Yes,
he's thinking,
absolutely.
I'm a rookie, I got to get off the ice. Like their coaches. Now Kulak, he's like his head's swimming. Like he can't hardly think. He's probably so tired at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got to get off. But it was a bad line change on his part as well. But if Holloway doesn't change, they can't make that pass. And there's time for Kulak to get off the ice.
Maybe, yeah.
Holloway might be able to cover off the middle of the ice
Well, he was
and
right
allow
there
this
in good
and allow
position until he left it.
veteran players might be aware of, hey, my D man has got to get off. I got to do whatever I can to cover for him and to hang back and not let
Hmm.
them break up the ice, attack up the ice instead of like skating off and leaving the middle of the ice wide, freaking open like that. So yeah, I don't know. I guess they could call up James Hamblin, would be the
Hmm.
other guy. He's an option if Benson's not ready. Like if it may take Tyler Benson a month to come back, right, to be ready for NHL play. He doesn't want to come up here when he's not ready. But he's a good option. Hamblin's a good option. Well, those are my two guys. Those who I'd pick.
Hmm.
Brad Malone is a player that the coach really likes, but he's very limited utility in the NHL level. He's a little bit slow.
They did
Uh,
call him up actually. I think they must have put Yamamoto on injured reserve, although I haven't
oh,
checked yet because
they've called up.
Malone got called up today, but
Oh, okay, I missed
he
that.
didn't play, of course. But he was,
There you go.
and Tyler Benson is on the roster as the 23rd man.
Oh,
But he's on a rehab assignment in
yes,
Bakersfield. And in order to do the rehab and to stay on the roster, you have to actually be on the 23-man roster and on the
I
payroll and
see.
everything else. So uh, after the end of I think it's 4 games that Benson gets in the time that's allotted. After that, they either have to bring him back and keep him on the roster, or then they have to waive him to keep him in Bakersfield. So these are pretty important games for him down in Bakersfield. But I'm kind of with you. I mean, the Benson that we saw in the preseason, um, uh, he was playing pretty good. It was really tough luck for this guy to suffer an injury at such a time that he was really playing his best, put his best foot forward to fight for a job here. And as you say, it's not like the Oilers would be asking to replace a 15 to 18-minute winger. They got a 4 to 7 minute winger that they're struggling to find places where they can put him in games. And I just think we've seen enough. I've seen enough that tells me this is a really good prospect, but he's not yet an NHL caliber player. The mistakes are outweighing the good plays by a significant margin.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, you wonder if the lessons being learned might be outweighing the confidence being lost. And I'm not sure at all on that front either. So not that a demotion to the minors is going to do anything to improve a guy's confidence in the immediate short term, but once he's there, you play the crap out of him. In all situations, you put him on the power play and the penalty kill and the first line and center and wing and overtime and everything, and say, "Have at her, show us your game, get the, get your instincts going again." Because playing 5 minutes a night, the game won't flow for him, and clearly it's not.
Yeah.
It's just been a bit of a train wreck to this point. It kind of exacerbates itself. If you start losing trust of the coach and getting less time, don't play at all in the third period like he did tonight. And then the next game, the guy's going to be on tenterhooks, and I think we've actually been seeing that for quite a while.
A couple months in Bakersfield would probably do him very well at this point. I see no problem at all with that. And if he excels down there, as I expect he will, he'll be up for the playoff run. For
Hmm.
the regular
Yeah.
season. Cut up for February, March, and go from there. They have options. If Benson's healthy, they're going to have an option there. He can play in the NHL. I think at this point. Um,
Well,
we're
fourth
seeing with
liner is
Matthias.
what you're looking for,
Yeah,
right?
and we're seeing with Matthias Janmark coming in, and man, he looked good with Connor McDavid. I mean, McDavid sent him in on a breakaway. He sent McDavid in on a breakaway with a battle won there.
Mhm.
Um, this is this the Oilers they have a little bit of depth here. They don't need Dylan Holloway to lead this team to anything. Um, I think Janmark is. I wouldn't be surprised to see him stick here, Bruce, for a couple weeks with McDavid, and we'll see how it goes then. Of course, everything's highly changeable in the NHL with forward lines, but Janmark's earning his keep right now, and he's just the kind of glue player, I think, who you can team up with two super attackers like Hyman and McDavid and get some chemistry going. a smart, heady player who's good with the puck and wins battles. I mean, man, he could be just the thing. This is what we were hoping Esapulli would do this year and Yamamoto would do, and they both. I think it's fair to say they both struggled to some extent. They're just not. They're not. Neither has brought their A game all year, but we're seeing Janmark's A game. He's bringing it right now. So let's see, and maybe we'll see Tyler Benson come up and bring his A game, and that'll add something to this team as well. And that's what they need to happen. Bruce, let's go to your number. What is it?
Well, I'm actually going to go right back to Matthias Janmark and talk about the 17 minutes and 44 seconds that he played in this game. And when you look at Oilers forwards in this game, the top four are exactly who you think they'd be. Leon Draisaitl, 23-29. Connor McDavid, 23-12. Zach Hyman, 22-31. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, 22-12. And that's four of the big five. And of course, the fifth guy, Vander Kane, is on the sideline. So that, they're really missing him because he logged a lot of ice time as sort of the fifth guy of the big five. And right now, the fifth guy is Matthias Janmark. He had 17:44, and the next forward after him had 15 minutes and 17 seconds, Warren Fogle. And Janmark, in the process, led the penalty kill unit with 2 minutes, 38 seconds, most of any forward. And this isn't just this game, because on Wednesday night's game against the Kings, game that I went to, and I wasn't that Ira, thank you, Ira, filled in on the podcast for me. But we had more of the same in that game. We had, McDavid 22-43, Hyman 22-03, Draisaitl 20-21, Nugent Hopkins 19-43, and then there was like a 4 to 5 minute gap again. Number 5 was Matthias Janmark, 15-22, with a team high 253 on the penalty kill. So he hasn't just come up and played in the bottom six. He's come up. He's been promoted within the lineup, and he's been promoted not just with line mates, but with actual minutes. Like, he's in the top six if you believe the minutes of the last two games. He's been number 5 with a bullet in both games. So this guy, I mean, he was really between a rock and a hard place and caught in the terrible cap crunch that the Oilers had. I mean, there's no way they wanted to send him down to the minors, but they had to send one of him or Ryan down just because the cap was too tight to allow both of them in the team. And so he had to be chomping at the bit down there, not even playing because he had green card issues, and he finally got to play, and I'm sure he was not very happy being in the AHL. This or any point in his career, really. But when he come back, I mean, credit to the guy. He played well in his few AHL games, and he's played well since he's been up here. He's skating. He's, making things happen. He had one play tonight where they were under a bit of pressure, and he made a terrific play to block a shot just inside the line, and an even more terrific play to somehow get to the loose puck and chip it out. And then McDavid was on it. Before you knew it, he'd beaten his guy, and he was going in alone. But that all happened because Janmark had made the big stop. So mostly good. He had a brutal turnover with like 1 minute and 20 seconds to go in the third period. That could have ended very badly indeed. But he, he's I think looked good. He's very fast, and he's very crafty along the boards. That's I knew he was fast. In the games that I've seen preseason and a few regular season games, he's consistently impressed me with his ability to handle a puck in traffic.
Yeah, Bruce, I wrote a post about buried treasure and how hard it's been for Oilers GMs through the decade of darkness to find forwards who can come in and play, who actually come in,
and be good.
Be good. It's just like there's a list of it's just endless. It's dozens and dozens of players who have been brought in and who have not been good. Just a quick list of names: Ben Eager, Robert Nielsen, Alice Kodalik, Patrick O'Sullivan, Eric Belanger, Jared Smithson, Boyd Gordon. Now, some people might like Boyd Gordon, but I wasn't one of them. Teddy Purcell, Ryan Spooner, Laurie Korpikoski, Colin Fraser, Drake Kajula, Tobias Reeder, and Jussi Jokinen. So these were all players that predated Ken Holland. And to a large extent,
Right.
They're a big part of the reason that the Oilers never got anywhere. It was the decade of darkness plus. It was a horrible time for the franchise. Their pro scouting was atrocious. They could not identify talented players or convince talented players to come here. There's always that aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ken Holland, Bruce, he brought in Evander Kane. And whatever else you want to say, that was a brilliant hockey move. You get a player like that to come here last year, um, for pennies on the dollar, and the way Kane played and the success the Oilers had in the playoffs, that was a huge move by Ken Holland. And then you're able to sign him to a long-term deal at a fairly good rate for a player of his ability. Unfortunately, he's out injured. That happens to players. You can't, that's going to happen. So that's one, right? Now they convinced Zach Hyman to come here, but Hyman wasn't buried treasure. He's a known commodity. That was just he wants to play with McDavid and Draisaitl. They got him to come here. That was good though. I mean, that's good. But
Mm-hmm.
what they need is they need more players, kind of at the bottom end. And like so, I think Derek Ryan is been a useful signing personally.
Mm-hmm.
That I think Josh Archibald was okay-ish. Warren Fogle could still work out. Jesse Puljujärvi could still work out. People are down on him, but Holland convinced him to come back. Ryan McLeod, that was a gem found in the draft, I think, in the Chiarelli era,
Yep.
who's developed. Klim Kostin could work out, but Janmark is the one. From the first time I saw him play, I'm kind of vaguely aware of the players on other teams that aren't their superstars, but from the first time I saw him with the Oilers here, I thought, wow, this guy's a hockey player. He
Mm-hmm.
can really play. It's like a shock, because we how often have we
No.
seen we hardly have ever seen that, a guy who can really play hockey,
Mm-hmm.
come in, kind of an
No.
unheralded player, and come in and impress everybody. Now, if he can consistently do that,
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna be amazing for the Oilers. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you can get a third line or a second, even for a time, a second line or first line player out of him, that will be massive for the Oilers because it never happens, hardly ever happens. So good luck to him. A great first impression, and tonight he came through once again.
Yeah, well, I'm reminded constantly of the great Craig McTavish quote when he came in as a sort of a wild card in management, and he assessed the talent pool that had been accumulated by Steve Tambellini, and he said, "We got too many guys." I'm paraphrasing, but it should be close. We got too many guys here where the best that you can hope for is they're going to break even.
Yeah,
Like there's no way they're going to, do anything more positive that, helps you win more than a very, very occasional game. And and of course, the best you can hope for is they break even. Well, you're not always going to get that either. And so all those guys you listed and another 1,000 that you didn't were mediocre players, just one after the other that were, just uh, average or below, and most often below. And the Oilers have had this problem with their stars off the ice right through and deep into the McDavid era. With the one exception of 2016-17 when, they got a hot year from Mark Letestu and they had, a little bit more bounce up and down the lineup and great health that year too. But they haven't found too many gems in the depth signings. And we'll see on Yanmark. I mean, early days, but
yes,
early indications are this guy can play. And his past history, I mean, this guy is like a 30-year-old guy who's been in the NHL for several years, and his track record suggests that he can play. So let's see what he can do. And maybe this, whether he's a true first liner with McDavid, um, well, I have my doubts. On the other hand, you know, uh, the right player getting the right opportunity. I mean, Patrick Maroon, whoever saw him as being a first liner with McDavid, and yet when he got that chance, he took that ball and ran with it. So that's
yeah.
that's what you hope for.
And all he doesn't have to be like, you know, Steve Shutt or
Right.
like he doesn't have to be Glenn Anderson. He doesn't have to be, I don't know, whoever, like a real first line winger, Joe Pavelski. he's just got to be a glue player. He's just got to fill in and chip
Mhm.
in now and then.
Mhm.
So, and the Oilers during that decade of darkness plus, it wasn't just they didn't identify players. They let some really good players slip through their fingers. Like of course Ryan Stroman, David Perron, Andrew Cogliano, Kyle Brodziak, and Curtis
Curtis
Glencross. Now Janmark strikes me
Lindros.
as maybe he can be kind of like a Glencross player, like
Mhm.
that guy. Um,
That's a good player.
yeah, that was a real good player that they
And
just
especially at $1 million,
yeah,
that's a good player.
yeah, yeah, they really
Like
blew
that's
that
the
one.
thing. I mean, guys like Hyman and Kane that we mentioned earlier, well, they're paying those guys to be good, but where you got to find value further down your roster somewhere. You got to have $1 million player or two or three or four that are out performing their cap hit. And the Oilers arguably they got Skinner and McLeod in that category. I'd say not even arguably for sure. Those guys are outperforming, and they have Evan Bouchard still on his entry level contract, who in theory should outperform his cap hit over the long term, even as I'm under enthused with the game he's been playing lately. Um, but you need, a couple of veterans to kick in too. And then between Janmark and the guy who got called up around the same time, Klim Kostin, I think those guys are helping.
They are. They are indeed. Bruce, my number is two, and it's two specific moves that McDavid made on that incredible rush that ended it with the winning goal in overtime. When he gets the puck, it's just like a nonstop uh, Gatling gun spray of moves that he's making constantly. He's just moving here, there, and everywhere. But there was two moves in particular that no other mortal, no hockey player alive today, or maybe alive ever, could have made. I don't think. And they're what separate McDavid, his ability at this incredibly high speed that he moves at to execute these plays. And the first one, so he's the Oilers are regrouping in the neutral zone, and McDavid comes shooting across the center ice area, moving laterally across. He gets the pass from Nurse, and his first move was to take the puck to his backhand to puck protect. Because on him is Alex Pietrangelo, one of the
Hmm.
premier defensemen in the NHL for the last 10 years, a big, rangy guy who can really defend. And what does McDavid do? He gets the puck, moves it to his backhand, and immediately, with perfect weight, throws it forward about 4 or 5 strides past Pietrangelo. So McDavid is now going to skate onto that puck. And I don't know if he beats Pietrangelo if he doesn't do that. If he tries
Right.
to hold the puck, he might not beat him, but he moves the puck ahead and skates onto it. So he does all that in a split second and with perfect weight on pushing the puck ahead. Most other people would push the puck ahead and would go deep into the
Hmm.
corner, right? You'd have to go get it and fetch it in the corner. But he just put it ahead just enough to get by Pietrangelo and regain the puck on the other side. And then he's moving in on number 20, Chandler Stevenson, in the defensive slot. And he's got a little bit of an edge on him. And he then puck protects to the outside. He's got the puck on his backhand because Stevenson's in the middle of the ice. And then he's going to make his move on net. And the second move that he makes at incredible high speed is he takes that puck to get by Stevenson. He's got to puck protect. He's got to have it on his backhand. But then with lightning quick speed with his hands, just unbelievable sleight of hand, he takes the puck and moves it to his forehand. Just and then bam into the top of the net. But it's that little move to the forehand
Yep.
which gives him the angle to get off that forehand shot because otherwise he has to shoot backhand or try to take it around the goalie and D. But that quick move from the backhand in, just with his hands to pull that puck in so he can launch it up high, that was sublime. And again, no, I don't think maybe there's a few other people who could do that, but there are very few other people on Earth who can make those two
Hmm.
particular moves at the speed that he's moving at.
Hmm.
Um, it was awesome. It was absolutely thrilling to see him do that.
Well, from the goalie's perspective on that play where he's cutting across like that, and he has those two touches, and it's like they're like an eighth of a second apart. between and pulling it from the backhand. He moves it maybe, what, a foot or foot and a half towards his forehand, but it's on his forehand and gone before the goalie can even get set for the new shooting angle. The puck's already behind him and in the net. And, it's normally, these things take sort of a known amount of time. It's like a shortstop feeling a ground ball, and he knows how much time it takes the runner to get to first base. And some guys are a little bit faster than the other guy. Well, this is Ricky Henderson, and the shortstop's got no time at all because he's already 70 feet down the line before the guy even touches the ball. And it's it's just a game changer, the quickness that he's able to pull off these high skill moves.
Yeah, if he ever wants to if he's ever down on his luck and he needs to make his living as a pickpocket, he will be a rich man that way as well. His hands are so unbelievable. Like it's such a joy to watch, hey Bruce. It's just it is thrilling. And we are so fortunate and lucky to have this player in the prime of his career. Who knows if he'll be here in Edmonton the whole time of his career, but in the prime years of his career, I'm still hopeful that he will. But in the prime of his career, we're seeing this guy night in, night out. And some nights he just puts on a show like he does there and takes over the game and wins it for his team. So one of the reasons I want to see this team get it together defensively is I really do think McDavid, like he deserves to win. He deserves to be on a winning team. He deserves to be on a team that wins the Stanley Cup. And the only way that will happen with this team, and maybe with any team, given parity in the NHL, is through absolute maniacal defensive commitment. And they've got to bring that. But if they do that, if they do that hard stuff, they can win the cup. They can win the Stanley Cup. He can be rewarded for his great gifts. And that's what I want to see. I think that should happen. I think that would be justice. But he can only bring about that. He's going to be paying the iron price for the Stanley Cup with lots of blood, sweat, and tears in playing defensive hockey. He and Draisaitl. That's going to be what it's going to take. I think they're going to do it, but I think they are going to do it. So that's the story of the year. Can they pull that off?
No. Well, tonight was the perfect example of a game where they probably got outplayed on balance. They got outshot 34-23. We had the grade A shots at 16-11, but the Oilers executed better on their opportunities, and they were able to bury. And that's what you hope is your advantage with a high-skilled team. And maybe you take some of those other numbers with a grain of salt, because the shot on your team's stick is maybe worth a fraction more of an expected goal than a shot on the other team's stick. And when thing goes according to plan, you finish a few and your goalie stops a few at the other end, and you find a way to come out on top. And that's really what happened tonight.
We should just finish off with a bit of a shout out to the goalie, to Stuart Skinner, who had a pretty good game. He was the better goalie tonight, and the Oilers won. So that's what you want to see from a goalie. Stuart Skinner he's been great. He's just had a great start to the year. So good for him. Hopefully he can keep it up, and hopefully Jack Campbell can come in and start getting his game together. There was a really good breakdown of his game by McKenna. Who wrote that?
Mike McKenna of Daily Faceoff. It was really good. He had video footage, and he really knows his stuff. I've been following McKenna on Twitter for a long time, since he was a player. He was always quite open about goaltending and techniques and stuff, and he was a great follow. And I'm not surprised at all that he's moved on and found a platform in media now that his long and checkered career that he played with about 300 different teams in about 20 leagues. But I'm not surprised, and I'm in fact quite happy to see that he's landed on his feet, because he's got plenty to say about the position.
Well, Bruce, we're closing in on 2 a.m. Edmonton time here, so I think we should let you get back to work. You're getting
I'm about 2/3 of the way through, but I still got a couple of big ones to get to, right. And then I got to get her up and get to bed.
Well, crank it out, man. Crank it out. Okay, thanks for talking tonight, Bruce.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.